so good to be with you again today, and I just pray God's blessing upon you in all that you do today for His glory. Amen. I don't know about you, but I get frustrated sometimes. I'm sure we all do in one way or another. My frustration, one of my big frustrations, is when I'm driving along and we come to an intersection and there's cars waiting to merge into that line. And so, I wave them on and say, come on, get in front of me, let's go, let's go. And I'm smiling at them and wave them in, and I'm expecting something from them. I'm expecting them to go, yep, thank you, mate, thank you. And sometimes, quite a lot of times in fact, it never comes. They never say thank you. They just roll on in and merge on in that line and without a thank you. And I usually end up getting very frustrated and say, well, I'll say thank you for you then, mate, come on. We all do something similar like that, don't we? In Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 11, King Solomon says this, "But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere." King Solomon's writing out of his frustration. He's writing and he's looking at his life and he's seeing all these unmet expectations. And we're talking about King Solomon here. One of the greatest monarchs that has ever been. He was one of the richest, one of the most powerful. He was the king that God said to him, "I'll give you whatever you want. What do you want?" And King Solomon says, I really want wisdom. And God gave him wisdom, but also with that riches and power. So King Solomon was blessed, and he's looking back over his life at all his accomplishments, and he accomplished a lot. And he's saying, there's some unmet expectations here and it's frustrating me. It's just really sad that I never met those expectations. And we can see in some of the writings that he got into a bit of depression and anxiety over these things. Latoya Robinson writes, "Today's unmet expectations can be tomorrow's frustrations." And that is so true. I've seen it so many times of people's unmet expectations in life becoming tomorrow's frustrations. They become a burden to them, that they become depressive to the person. And this is the problem with unmet expectations. I was talking to a friend in one of my appointments. He was a clinical psychologist, and I asked him this very question. I said, "What is the cause of depression?" And he says to me, "Andrew, one of the things associated with depression, one of the main things associated with depression is unmet expectations." And that blew me away. Unmet expectations. It's those expectations that we put on ourselves. We put on a whole heap of expectations over ourselves that we're going to be so much better than what we are. And when we don't make it, we get depressed about it. We kind of think to ourselves, well, how come I haven't made it yet? A lot of the time we haven't made it because we don't have the capacity yet, and we've got to grow into that capacity and become the person of capacity to meet that expectation. But there's also the expectation that family put on us. When we're growing up, where our family has, especially our mums and dads, have expectations that we're going to go into such and such a profession, and we're going to become doctors or lawyers and so forth. And sometimes I think we want our children to become doctors and lawyers so that they can give us a good retirement. But the reality is we put these expectations as parents. We really want our kids to go further than us. That's the real reason. But we put these expectations on our kids that they're going to be this, that, and the other. And when they don't make it, because that's not what they were created for, then it can cause them to be depressive. These unmet expectations that they are carrying from us. Then there's unmet expectations from friends. We're expecting our friends to be there, and when they're not, oh my goodness, we disown them. But it causes us to be depressive again. Then there's the unmet expectations from God. That's the big one. When God doesn't meet our expectations, when God doesn't answer our prayers in the way that we want Him to, we actually have this expectation that God will be available when we want Him to be. He will speak into our situation when we want Him to be. And when He doesn't meet that, it starts to cause us to doubt who God is, and it causes us to doubt our faith and all the rest of it. So unmet expectations can cause us no end of trouble. We expect friends, we do favors for people, expecting that favors will come back to us, and it causes us to be in pain, in depression. I came to a point in my life that I don't really have expectations on people so much anymore. I still do to a certain degree, but they don't cause me to be in pain. They don't cause me to fall apart when they don't meet them. I've come to the point where I do things for people and I don't expect them to come back with something in return. And I can tell you one thing, it's caused me to have so much freedom in life. It causes me to be at peace with people. It causes me to be at peace with myself. When you don't expect anything in return, then you are going to be a blessed person. It's nice when it happens, and it should happen. We should be blessing each other all the time. But if it doesn't happen, and you don't expect it to happen, then you cannot be controlled by that unmet expectation. And this is the thing. We've got to make sure that we're not controlled by unmet expectations. Unmet expectations, we've got to place them into God's hands. Even our unmet expectations from God, we need to place them back into God's hands and understand that He has a plan. If He's not meeting your expectation, then He has a plan. Look what it says in Romans chapter 8 verse 28. It says this: God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God. And to my understanding, He hasn't taken those words back yet. He still will make all things work out together for good. You see, when we start to understand that God's got a plan, and we start to believe that God's got a plan, that means that any unmet expectation has no longer got any power over us to cause us to be depressed or have anxiety or anything else, because we know that God is going to meet our need according to His riches in glory. He's going to make it all work out. He always does. It may not look the way that we want, it may not have happened the way we want, but He makes it work out because He is God. And He knows the seasons, He knows the times when everything has to come together for good. He will never disappoint us because He is God. God's plans are always bigger than we understand. And we've got to look to God and say, God, all these unmet expectations, I give them over to You because I know You've got it in hand. If you can do that, then you're going to walk in peace. You're going to have peace in your heart. You're going to walk in peace. You're going to be at peace with your friends, peace with your neighbors, peace with your family, knowing that God will work all things out for good for those who love Him. He does it. I know it. I feel it. I experience it. Be blessed. Have a great day.